Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This scene of ours, New York Congress edition. My brother Jeff. Jeff, how you doing?
Very good.
Jeff is very good. He hasn't been good the
Always.
last 3 days, but today he's very good. And we have an incredible guest today. This has to be my favorite episode, Jeff, because we talk about him so much. We don't get to see him as often as we'd like to, but it's going to be our privilege to share some stories, some anecdotes about our experiences in the dance scene. Without further ado, the one, the only, the king, Eddie Torres.
Thank you, April. Thank you. Thank you.
The king.
Honored.
Is that weird, somebody calling you king? Because
You know-
I've been trying it at home, and it's not flying.
Let me tell you a little funny story. When they used to ask Tito, how do you feel when people call you the Mambo King? He said, I don't have no problem with that as long as they don't call me the Mambo Queen.
Okay.
That was his answer.
I can't get either or.
Yeah.
So, but you know, it's funny. It started with us when we started working together in the year 1979 with Tito, Maria and I. And then when people would see us perform, people started saying, oh, look, we got the Mambo King of music and the Mambo King of dance. And that never felt comfortable because, you know, people think because they call you the Mambo King that it's a competitive thing. That means you're a better dancer than the next guy. I said, no, by no means. I said, there are so many great dancers, much better than me. I says, maybe, I think it came with that idea of introducing the music and the dance as a marriage with Tito Puente. And also because I was the one that had the vision to start creating this market that we're all enjoying. But I do remember that Tito they used to always ask him that about Mambo King. And like I said, you know, titles don't mean nothing. Really, they don't mean nothing. I say, look, I walk into McDonald's, I'm the Mambo King. Yeah, well, that costs $3.95, sir. You know what I mean? There's not really much benefit behind that. But it is flattering, and it's kind of like an honor to be considered. And I think it was more because of the contributions because I started this very young. And one of the things I always remember, because I used to tell my mother, Mom, when I grow up, I'm going to be a professional mambo dancer, and I'm going to work one day with Tito Puente, and I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to dance for the president. She said, I'm going to take you to a psychiatrist. I think you got problems. She didn't see it because there was no market, Jeff.
Right.
There was none of that existed. And I said, but Mom, I think I came to this world to help create that market because I saw all these beautiful dances, the ballet, the jazz, all of the classic dances, the modern. And I said, why can't our dance one day develop to that level and be respected as a classic art form? And I knew right away because I was interviewed and the lady asked me, what do you think is missing for this dance to reach that level? I said, I think what we need is the infrastructure. We need the foundation, the musical foundation. We need to put in a structure that people could learn by, and hopefully with that development will create the market. And this started from 1987, Jeff, when we did a tribute to Machito that I had.
At the
Apollo Theater.
So we got to get some context because I've seen it.
Yeah, not
But
everybody has.
a lot of people that are here or whether they're gonna watch, they don't understand what that was. So can you please explain what that tribute was?
Yes, very simple. That was a tribute that Tito Puente, one night he called me and says, Eddie, I have something special planned because Machito, the singer, Machito had passed away. He says, I want to do a special tribute to Machito at the Apollo Theater, but I want a real big, beautiful number, a real big choreography. And I remember I told him, I said, I met him, check this out, Tito called me, it was raining. And he said, meet me now on my player's choice, meet me there, I'm going to give you the cassette and talk to you about the project. And the first
Hold
thing
on 1 second. Cassettes are these little rectangle things that you put in, you push them and hit play.
They had like a
Yes.
reel inside of them.
And you can record the radio. And when someone had an album that you liked, you could dub it.
And they used to get messed up, and you would need a pencil to fix them.
Yes. All right. So just
You know,
just wanted to.
Don't laugh because, you know, vinyl is back.
Yeah.
Everybody's
Yeah.
buying. I said, man, if I would have known that, I threw boxes and boxes of vinyls away.
Yeah.
I said,
Estamos
man,
pobre por eso.
those things are collector's items. now.
Yeah,
All right,
100%.
let me get back to the story.
Yeah.
So when Tito says, I need a lot of dancers, I said, but Tito, the only thing I know how to do is choreograph for Maria and I because we were doing duets with Tito. And he says, don't worry. He says, you'll figure it out. You figure it out. Let's say, he said, I'm going to give you the music. He says, you put a big group together. And when you're ready, call me up so I can come down and see the rehearsal. And if it's good, we'll do it. If not, you know, we won't. So that's how it started. Now, we did the tribute at the Apollo Theater. I think it was 1987, Maria. Yeah, 86, and it turned out to be phenomenal. It turned out to be something really amazing.
Was David Melendez one of the dancers?
Yes, he was.
He was,
I can
right?
tell you a funny story later about that too.
David Melendez was the originator of the New York
Familia,
International
60
Salsa
dancers.
Congress.
60 dancers. For choreographing for 2, I went to 60 dancers.
And one of the things, this is because I know you did the Apollo twice, and I definitely have. I believe I have this one. This was the one with
Myron, Mr.
with
Myron Ward, who was a former
Myron
student of
Ward.
ours, who was able.
So
Yeah, I think Myron was in there, right, Mommy?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I did the Apollo 5 times, by the
you-
way. 5 times.
But this one was documented.
Yes, it was.
So this one, there's actually, which I have in my archive, there's actually like they documented the process, right? From like how it came together. And one of the things I remember about watching it choreography wise, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but this was my interpretation. There was a point where someone was dancing on stage, right? And it was like during the mambo section of the song, and then all of a sudden a horn section came in, and then the ladies came in, and their style of dance was completely horn based. So the choreography kind of just switched as the
Instrumentation changed. The figures that the dancers were super representative of what
of
that
the
instrument in that.
And I
specific
remember
section.
watching it, and I'm going like, wow, look at the transition, the music transition, the dancer transition, but it's almost like it was choreographed by somebody else, because it's like you saw one style and you saw the style and you saw it heavy, and then all of a sudden it was like flowy, and for me, like, it really caught my attention, and it was like really inspirational. So was that like, do you understand what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Was that intentional, or like was it just like a whim? Like, I feel it like this.
Would you like for me to explain to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when I choreographed this show, Tito Puente did 2 numbers. He did a tune called Machito Forever, right? And then we also did the tune Babarabatiri. So the nightmare started with when I listened to the beginning of that song, Machito Forever. I'm listening in Tito's car, and all I hear is ba ba oh ba ba oh ba babe oh ba, and I started thinking, what the hell am I gonna do with a number that starts like that? Because it had no ginkgo, ginkgo, ginkgo. It was just this interlude, ba ba. And I said, oh my God, this is gonna be just a miracle for me to pull this off. So I took the cassette home, and I started, what I did at that time, Jeffrey, because I knew everybody in the social clubs and everything, and I would go to the clubs and I would know all the dancers that were good, and I would say, Stacy, David, listen. I explained the whole idea of performing with Tito at the Apollo, and everybody was like, oh my God, they were super inspired. I said, of course. So I took all the dancers, and it was all nationalities too. It was everybody.
Yeah.
And I invited them to rehearse with me at a place called El Museo del Barrio, the Boys Harbor. And I said, we would meet on Sundays. And I said, listen, this is going to be like a 3 or 4 hour rehearsal. And I explained to them everything. This is what Tito wants. He wants a big number, blah, blah, blah. And I says, and these dancers, they were all social street dancers. They knew nothing about timing, about concepts of musical theory, clave. They knew nothing about that. Jeffrey, I think I aged 10 years in the process of preparing that number. Okay? Why? Because, when you would go to the clubs in those days, the first thing you would do is stop by the liquor store and pick up some rum, some Bacardi.
We still do that.
You didn't. You didn't want to pay the price at the club. Yeah. Everybody.
Jeff and I thought we created that.
The way we used to do it back in the day to get in the mood and get ready for this, before we went to the club, we might smoke a joint.
Oh, okay.
We might take a blow. That was the norm.
Yeah.
So they walk into the studio. I remember some had, like, a guy had a sandwich in his hand, a beer in the other, and then one guy was, Eddie, where can I go smoke this joint? And he said, can I go in the bathroom and maybe, I said, whoa. I said, wait a minute.
The Apollo Theater. What are we doing here?
No, this was at the
At the Museo del Barrio.
No, meaning
Yeah.
you're rehearsing for
But
the...
you know, Jeffrey, I understand that reaction because that's how they would
Yeah.
get ready to go hang out.
Yeah.
You know, you have to get a little bit high. You go, and I said, wait a minute. I sat them all down. Said, listen, guys, this is gonna be tough for you to swallow. I said, but this is not. We're going to the Copacabana, the Corso, whatever. This is not that. I said, this is gonna be the formation of a professional project and hopefully developing into a professional dance company. And they said, what? No smoke, no drink, what? You know? So the first few months, people chewing gum, it was a mess. And I remember that I had a guy that was measuring them for costumes, and the guy comes over. He said, Eddie, come here. He said, can I ask you a question? I said, what? He says, what are you doing with these people? They're savages. He said, son indio. He said, tan loco. I said, listen. I said, you are absolutely right. I said, I know why you're saying that. I said, but you know what? This is the beginning. This is gonna be the formation of one day. Out of this mess that you see here, one day you're gonna see discipline. You're gonna see professionalism. You're gonna see this develop into a market. And he says, I don't see it. I said, I know, that's why you didn't get the vision. I got it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It wasn't your turn.
Yeah. So what happens is, it took about, I don't know how many months, because Tito said maybe in 6 months this was going to happen. And I remember after like the third or fourth month, I felt that they were ready enough for Tito to come and see it. And by the way, if you'd like to see this documentary, it's called The Journey of a Latin Dance Company.
Yes.
And the actual production is called A Bailar. And it's on YouTube. I think you can find it.
It's on YouTube
right?
now. It is. Yes.
It's called A Bailar, and you'll see everything I'm saying. You're gonna basically see it. And then when I felt they were ready, I remember I took them that day on a Sunday. I took them into the gym. Because I needed a lot of room, and I invited Tito. And I told the dancers, and you hear me say it in the documentary. I said, "Listen, guys, this is it. Tito's gonna come. If he likes what he sees, most likely we will be with him at the Apollo. If he doesn't like what he sees, that's it. It ends right here. He's going to squash it, and this is not going to happen." So you could imagine how nervous I was, Jeff, because I really wanted this to turn out to be a success for Tito, mostly. So Tito came, and I remember, you'll see it in the video, he came. First he sits down, and I started to explain to him. I said, Tito, this is Machito Forever, and this Baba Rabatiri, now we're getting back to the way you were saying that you saw the separation in the choreography. I call it orchestrated choreography. What does that mean? That when I studied the arrangement of Baba Rabatiri, what I did was study the saxophone section, what they were playing. I studied the horn section, what they were playing. And what I decided is, I said, you know what? I would like to separate. I would like, let's say, ladies over here dressed in beautiful gold gowns, shimmering, to do all the trumpet phrases. So the saxophones over here were guys, I was gonna put them in silver sequence blazers. So you have silver and gold, and in the middle was gonna be the rhythm section of the arrangement. And I started teaching this, and you see it in the video. I said, guys, when the saxophones start playing, you're gonna hear boom, boom, wah, wah, boom, 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 wah, wah. So here's the saxes, boom, boom, trumpets, wah, wah, boom, 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 trumpets, wah, wah, go, go, then everybody, go, go, go. And then you hear the melody of the saxes, do, 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 da, do, da, do, do, da, do, da, do, ba, da, ba, da. And I put steps to that melody, go, go, do, go, 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 while the trumpets were doing something else. When Tito saw that, and I could tell by the look in his face, he didn't understand it. So I said, Tito, I tried to explain to Tito, what you're seeing here is separations, just like your orchestra. You got the horns here, the trombones here. I said, I separated them and I choreographed. And he says, what do you mean? He said, Eddie, I don't understand. Are they supposed to all be together? Or what's going on here? And then I said, no, Tito. So what I did purposely, I said, okay, saxophone dancers, lay out. Trumpet ladies, lay out. Let's show Tito the rhythm section. And then the rhythm section was like boom, 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 ba ba da ba ti, and you see everybody together.
Yeah.
And then I said, Tito, they're going to be wearing shimmering gold dresses. And the guys, he said, I don't care if they're wearing bikinis. What I want to know is this supposed to be everybody stepping and in sync together? And it took me a while. And I was very nervous because I said, right here, he's going to say, go home. This is not going to happen. After I explained it to him, then he said, Eddie, I never saw anything like that.
Yeah.
I never saw orchestrated choreography. Because I was always thinking theater. That's how come when I come to perform, I like to think theater. I like the lights to be right. You know, if I had Michael Jackson's money, boy, would I go to town with productions. You know me?
So would I. So would I.
Yeah,
so
right.
would I.
Right? So at first, after I explained to him, he said, "Damn, Eddie, that's really deep. That's deep." Matter of fact, one time we were in a club and I had choreographed "Ran Can Can" with Maria, and in that number with the original version, Tito's playing the vibes. Right? So we start together, Maria and I, and at some point, Maria is doing steps on the vibes, and I'm doing steps on the trumpet. And I was in the club, and I told him about it. He said, show it to me now. I want to see it. So while he was on the break, they put the music on, and Maria and I got in front, and we started dancing the whole number. I said, Tito, look, watch Maria. King, 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 go, gong, gong, king, king, gong. And then she breaks off. Ga-ding, go-dong, go-ding, go-ding, gong, king, gong, king, gong, king, go-ding, gong, king, go-ding, gong, 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 king, gong, king, go-ding. And that's Maria. And I'm going, pa-da, pa, gong, gong, pa-da, pa, gong, gong. And then we come together, pa, 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 gong, gong. And then when he saw that, excuse my French, he said, Eddie, that's a motherfucker. That's exactly what he said.
That's exactly what I was thinking, motherfucker.
And by the way, when you
Eddie.
said that last night, I said, oh no, oh no. I said, let's keep it clean.
He slipped.
It slipped out. It slipped out. We all make
It's a
mistakes. We're all
Freudian
human.
slip.
Yeah. But anyway,
Eddie, you and I,
don't stop me, man.
you and I would have definitely had a lot of fun in events back in the days.
Yeah,
Because I could feel all of that shit.
Yeah,
It's
everything you're talking about.
It's like, you know what I'm saying? I remember you taught a step that I teach, that I learned from you. And we call it the 4-point freeze. It was like, tarom, parum,
Oh, you remember that? Yeah.
tarukarugara,
Wow, yeah,
So
that's an oldie.
That's a step that is hard to teach because you have to go 1, 2, 3, right? Like you gotta hold 5, hold and 7, hold that, right?
That's right.
So then when I learned it, when you taught it, you said, look, forget the count, go with the rhythm, and it was literally parum para cari cara. Para pari parum pa pa.
That's exactly how you taught it to us.
Still works.
Pa,
So this day-
bidim, pa, bidi, pa, bidi, bidi. 1, 2, 3. That's the
Right.
rhythm.
So it's like you know what I'm saying? Like that's like our language.
That's 21 years ago. We remember that like it was yesterday.
Yes.
We talk about taking your class.
Wait, before we do that,
Just
it's
okay.
important.
Go
I
ahead,
mean to
Jeff.
cut you off, but it's important. When I first met you, the first thing I said to you after the class, I said, "Hey, I heard that you're the person that invented on 2." Right? That's what I said to you, and you said, "No, that's not true." And I think I think it's important you share that piece of information so that they know, because I know your answer, but I think it's important that they know.
There's one lady, and in almost every interview, when they start asking me about history, I never fail to mention her and give her all the credit for the knowledge that she laid on me for this structure that we use. Her name is June, like the month of June, and her last name is Liberta. She was She was an Italian ballroom teacher. This lady, as I got to meet her at the Corso, she used to go to the Palladium nightclub. She used to go there every week. And when I first saw her at the Corso, I saw, the Palladium dancers had such a unique style in everything they did. And when I saw her, I said, this lady has such a beautiful style. And I wanted to start dancing with her. And I remember the first time I started dancing with her, I was so enthralled with her style and her feeling that I wanted to dance all night with her. And I would dance with all the ladies. And when I started dancing with June Liberta, out of 10 songs, I think I danced 7 or 8 with her. And then the other ladies there will come to me and say, because she was much older than me, she said, yo, Eddie, what's up with you dancing with grandma on that? What about us? What about us? And I said, they were insulting her. I said, you know what, ladies, I understand your feeling, but I got to tell you, this lady that you are insulting and calling her grandma, I said, she has more soul and more feeling and more style in her dancing than all of you put together. So y'all just leave me alone with grandma. I said, if I get tired of her, maybe I'll come over and hang out with you.
There you go.
It was probably more like, "Hey, stay back, Jack." That was kind of how you guys talk back. In the day, right?
Because I felt bad that they were looking at her like, oh, she's just an old lady.
Maria, we're just telling stories, okay? We don't need. We're just hanging out. We're just learning.
That guy just got the belt on.
All right. We're just learning.
So, June Liberta. Okay, so here's how it starts. I'm dancing with her at the Corso week after week after week. And the funny thing is, I had already this dream and this desire to perform with Tito Puente. And so what I would do purposely, because whenever Tito was not traveling, they would always hire him at this place called the Corso. It was a club on 86th Street between 3rd and 2nd Avenue. All right?
Nice.
3rd and 2nd? Yeah, 3rd and 2nd.
Did that place ever move? Was that the only location it ever had?
No, it was there for years. It was actually opened up after the Palladium closed.
Okay.
It became what I understood as the second Palladium.
Right.
Because when the Palladium closed, where were all the dancers from the Palladium going? To the Corso. That's where you had the dancers like Louis Machina. You had Cuban Pete. Imagine the Corso dances. Okay, Palladium's closed. Now we're at the Corso. And so since Tito would play almost every Sunday, I would purposely go in front of the stage and dance like a crazy person. I said, maybe he'll notice me, and maybe there might be a chance at some point to do a show with him. So what June did, since June knew this was one of my desires to do a show with Tito, she said, Eddie, I want you to come with me on Friday night, let's say, to the Roseland Ballroom. I said, what's happening? She says, Tito Puente's playing, and we have a team called Augie and Margot. And they're going to perform with Tito. He says, once you see them perform, that's going to motivate you and inspire you even more.
Can I just say one thing so that people, just to put it out there? So Augie and Margot, along with Q and P and Millie Donay, they were basically correct me if I'm wrong, original two couples featured in the Palladium, to the point where it's like they would advertise the big three bands and they would also advertise these two couples because they were, groundbreaking dancers for their time.
Also, what they did, at some point, they decided they wanted to take it to the next level. So they came out of the Palladium, went into studios and started studying flamenco, jazz, blues. They started studying all these different dance forms to form their act. You can find them also on YouTube. Augie with an A, Augie y Margot, M-A-R-G-O.
And they were, if I'm not mistaken, they were on the Ed Sullivan Show, right?
Oh, yeah. And they danced for 2 presidents, I believe. 2 presidents. Wow. I thought it was 3. And when I sat there, I was at Roseanne Ballroom, and I remember, Jeff, when you sat there right before showtime, somebody would push a button, and let's say you see the stage here, right underneath the stage, another stage would slide out. I was sitting there and said, oh, wow. It was showtime, and all of a sudden you saw the stage come out, whoop, and so you had the band up here with Tito Puente, and down in that second stage was for Augie and Margot. And when I know they announced them, the lights went out and everything, and I'm sitting there like really, I was just, what's gonna happen? When I saw this team, Jeff, the first number they did was not a typical mambo. Mm-hmm. They did a blues number, which I had never seen that. Like, and they came out and they started doing all these beautiful lines and lifts and suave, and everything was like, and my hairs was saying, I said, oh my God. And then after that, they went and changed and came back a few numbers later, and they did what I thought in my eyes was a fusion of mambo with flamenco. Mm-hmm. All right? And Augie, he would jump up and do like the ballet dances that pirouette in the air, wow, and go on his knees, and I'm sitting there, my heart was just ready to burst. And I'm saying, oh my God. And trust me, dancers, I went home that night. I don't think I slept. I was in front of my mirror going, Augie, Augie. Wow.
I seen the videos of you rehearsing.
Yeah.
that you've been putting up lately, and I could definitely see that.
And you know what, Jeff, I guess you already know this, but in those days, There were no studios. There were no teachers. Because I used to tell my mother, "Mom, I want to be a professional mambo dancer." She said, "Pero mijo, there are no studios. No, who's teaching that? There's no market. Even if you develop, where are you going to perform?" And I remember I said, "Mom, I believe I'm going to help create this market." I said, because this dance has to come out of just the clubs and the streets. One day it has to be up there and be respected, and it has to reach the level of all the classic art forms of dance. And I'm talking about the ballet, the jazz, the flamenco. I said, one day we're going to see mambo up there. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm living in a time right now where all I keep saying, I tell Maria, I said, I only wish that June Liberta was here. Why? Because when she was the one who invited me from the course, she said, "Eddie, I want you to come to my studio." She had a studio right here on 47th Street, remember? She said, "And I want you to teach what you know, but I'm going to help you structure your steps with timing, and you're going to start naming your steps." I said, "June, ain't nobody put names to steps." She said, "I'm going to teach you," because that's the way they do it in the ballroom world. You know, they have what they call a step list, a syllabus, and everything is based on music theory, and they teach that. That's the way they teach. I'm going to teach you that, and if you're open to it, with this knowledge, one day you're going to help revolutionize the entire Latin dance community, and that's where the market is going to be created, and this is going to be something that's going to become commercial. And now when I see this dance being taught and dance around the world with this structure, every time I hear 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, Susie Q, Crossbody Elite, the only name I think about is June Liberta.
And you probably originally told her just exactly what my uncle told me when I told him I was taking class. He said to me, "Número, I feel it right here. I don't need numbers. I don't need to count. Who needs to, right?"
You know what, Jeff? I tell Maria all the time, if June was here right now, she'd be looking at me saying, "Didn't I tell you, Eddie Torres? Didn't I tell you that this was going to revolutionize the entire Latin dance community?" That's why when people say, "Eddie, did you invent it too?" I said, "No, June Liberta. June Liberta. She didn't invent it either, but she laid that knowledge on me." And trust me, Jeff, I was very reluctant. When she says, "You got to count beats," and I said, "Well, count beats?
Crazy, Jeff. Could you imagine?
I said, nobody counts numbers and name steps. I mean, well, how do you name a step?" And you know what she told me? Now you're going to know how the name Susie Q came about. She said, "All right, I'm going to give you the first name of a shine for your step list." I said, "You know this dance that you do at the Corso all the time?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "In the ballroom world, we call that the Susie Q." So now you take that name and you put it as step number 1, and then every time you do a step, look at the actual figure of the step and come up with a name. I said, "Oh my God, I can't do this." But all of a sudden, I'm at home and I'm going, "God, what can I call this?" Well,
front double cross.
There you go. I said, I'm crossing twice and I'm doing it front. Maria, front double cross.
Right.
And then another shine that I would do was cross, cross, cross with this. Cross over Susie Q.
Nobody knows how the sausage is made. You just assume that it happens.
And then
right?
you know this little thing where we go like this. I said, I seen the Cubans doing all the time. When I used to watch it, I said, now I'm gonna call that the Cuban step.
Right.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. So
there you go.
Now, from that little list that we used to give the students years ago, Maria has like how many books? 15 books at home like this. Like this.
Incredible.
And it's all filled with shines and names. Now remember, in those days, June Liberta used to have what they call a Super 8 camera. Our first one didn't have sound, Jeff. That's like when I post up those videos, everybody starts writing, "Eddie, where's the sound?" I says, "Relax, there was no sound in those days." The first camera that came out didn't have sound. Then as they came out with one with sound, then she bought that one, and then you started hearing the music on the recording. I said, now we got sound because June bought the newest camera, you know? But back in the day, and so what happened was, since I didn't have a camera, Maria would write everything down, and Maria would remember better than me, because if I look at those old books and I see, I had steps like Pop Goes the Weasel, Syncopated Jelly Jam, Starbucks Cha-Cha-Cha, I would come up with all these names. And a lot of the stuff I remember, but most of the stuff I said, "Maria, do you remember how this step goes?" Because had I had a camera, we would have recorded.
Yeah.
So I said, "Oh,
So somebody,
this step goes with that." Listen,
Somebody told me the other day, can I see a video of your first show? And I was like, no. They're like, wait a minute. You did your first show and you asked nobody to record it? Well, there were no camera phones back
see what
then.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not everybody carried a camcorder around to
Yeah.
record shows.
Yeah.
Right?
Now,
So
now, of course, we have cameras. You go to the bathroom, then somebody can record it. Yeah.
so now let's pivot to I just like, again, when we do this, we like to give a little history, but like I think it's important also like to give our point of view, right? So when we started dancing, I started in Jordi Rivera's dance studio. Shout out to Ralph. That's
Ralph is here. Yeah, and also a former Eddie Torres dancer, Jordi Rivera.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So,
So-
Danny used to
and
dance.
Danny.
Yeah.
So we're at Jordan's and they're like, oh, you gotta go take a class with Eddie. You have to do it. You have to do it.
And just for context, she had a shrine of. It's funny, in our studio we have pictures up, but in Jordays, one thing that she had that was super like it was impressionable. She had a shrine of just different pictures from different performances when she was in your group.
Really?
Yeah,
and
they were printed from like a CVS or something like that. Also,
yeah,
like real
so
pictures.
she had a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So we went to the studio on 54th Street, right? What is it, Nola's?
No less.
Nola's.
Yes.
Right? So we went, we took a class. It was a Tuesday class. And we were talking about this earlier, and I went with my brother and Edwin to take this class, and I mean we were jamming out. It was an advanced beginner class. But
Jeff still does the turn pattern.
yeah, I do actually.
Jeff remembers the turn
I'm not
pattern.
gonna lie, I do it socially all the time.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of compliments from it. Just letting you know. So we go, we get invited to a Sunday class. So he goes,
Wait,
"Hey."
before we do that, there was an anecdote that you gave in that class that I've used ever since that day. You did a crossbody lead and you said, hey, you could just do this and that's fine. But if you do the crossbody lead and you take your hand and you go, ba, ba, ba. Now we're talking. Now we got something. And I was like, oh, shit. I got to make sure to do this all
Was
the
it a
time.
rhythm? A rhythm? thing?
Yeah, it was with the right hand. So it was that.
What I would do is lead out and then have a little rhythm before you
Right,
started.
before the
Yeah.
turn.
Yeah.
By
So-
the way, if with your permission, I just want to say a little shout. I just realized Eli Irizarry is here with us, man.
Yes.
And I didn't
Yes.
realize. Eli, ¿cómo está, mijo?
De Puerto Rico.
Qué
Desde Puerto
chévere
Rico.
que está con nosotros, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna bring something
Oh
up
yeah,
with
go
that
ahead.
in 1
I'm
second.
not gonna. I'm not
No,
gonna.
no,
let it
I'm
out.
gonna
You-
bring
you
I'm
do
gonna
it.
bring something up about Puerto Rico in a second.
Okay,
that's
vaya.
very important. But when we went to the Sunday class,
Oh, my God.
we went to the Sunday class. So he goes, hey, I want you guys to come and see what it's like. Like, I think you guys will like it. And you'll hand, and I was like, it's not going to be too hard. And you were like, nah, you guys will be fine. Like, we're going to really jam out. So we showed up by Carnegie Hall, right?
Yep.
And there's like a ton of people there, right?
Yeah,
and we're like,
There
what
had
is
to have been
going
like
on?
80 people in this class, Eddie.
We're like, what's going on?
It was a
Like,
Sunday afternoon,
It was.
early
It
afternoon.
was a great class.
I know Melissa was there.
Yes.
Melissa was in the front taking
Yes.
class. And you kind of like walked in and started teaching, right? You started doing the basic, and then you started talking, you started explaining things. And then from 1 second to another, like your voice changed. It was like, man, and you like got amped. And then you got on the piano and started playing the piano in the middle of class. We were like, what is going on? What is this? Like, we were looking at each other. And then I'm looking at the clock, and I'm like, all right, 4:30, right? And I go, I thought this was partner work in this class because we were doing shines for 2 hours. And then you said, all right, guys, take a 5-minute break. And I was like, break? And then we started back
Partner
up.
work, yeah.
And we did partner work. And I remember leaving and thinking, yo, this is the greatest class I've ever taken in my life. What an experience. It wasn't like that's what I would rather refer it to, an experience. Taking class with, my brother says it all the time, taking class with Eddie Torres is an experience. It's not going in there and just learning a step. Like, there's a musical conversation. There's a conversation about etiquette. There's a conversation about structure and how to approach a social dance and when these shines are appropriate and when they're not. And then it's like, then you just go on a tangent and start playing an instrument and you do it well. And it was just kind of like,
It was enthralling.
yes.
It was, I've never seen, in within 10 feet of me someone is passionate about anything in life as we saw that day. Like, and then you just kept going. It was like, yo, we tired, bro. This guy's just going and going and going. It was that.
And
it
then
was like,
we
yo,
were exhausted, and you know what we did afterwards?
we went
Social dancing.
absolutely.
Wepa.
We went social dancing right after.
It was.
You know what it was? We were just on a high. So we were
was.
like, yo, I'm tired, but let's go. And I believe we went to Jimmy's, and I believe we just kept going.
Yep.
Like, it was just like we just...
Con un grajo encima. No deodorant. Like, we had one extra shirt and just went out there, bro. We didn't know yet. We were still too new to know you needed to come with a bag of 4 or 5 shirts if we were going to pull one of those.
Yeah.
But probably by far, still to this day,
Yeah.
greatest salsa class I've ever taken.
Wow.
Yes.
Well,
Easy.
thank you.
That's not even a question.
Yeah.
Those two by far are one
You know,
and two.
and again, like I said, the world has changed. Like, a 4-hour class would be very difficult to pull off right now. But, you know, the attention span, the way we do things, like, it's the world. I don't think it's a salsa thing. Like, a lot of the issues that people say we have in our scene, I don't think it's because it's our scene. It's because art imitates life, and life is changing. So when you know, there's no more shopping, I never liked shopping. So for me, I'm gonna just go on my phone and type in what I'm looking for and press go. You know what I mean? Because that shopping experience was never, I wanted quick. I wanted to get it over and done with. So I think with classes, you see that a lot. And then you'll have students that want that extra, and I think that there's a place for that too. But, you know, for us, for me, like, that is the epitome of what a class should be. Like, I could have lived with that forever.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
that was,
yeah.
again, greatest salsa day ever. It's hard to explain. It's hard to explain to people because it's people just don't get it. But there are just so many few things in life that you just recall. Like, I remember everything. I remember the room. I remember the lighting. I remember the piano on the side. It was. Oh man, it's hard to
Very
explain.
inspirational.
Very inspirational. Yes.
And now transitioning into you, you know, you kind of touched on Puerto Rico a little bit earlier, but when we started dancing, right? So we were broke. I was in college. You know, we were
Jeff,
college kids.
we're still broke.
We're still broke. but
Please reiterate, because then people
we're
think
still
we're
broke.
millionaires. We're not.
we're still broke, but we, you know, I'm 5 years older than him, right? So if I'm 21, he's what, 16?
Yes.
So he don't got a job. Edwin was in college. He didn't have a job. So when I started working, when I graduated college and I started working, you know, I was funding our socials.
Daddy Jeff is what we used to call him.
So it was like whatever I got paid, we were investing it in dance. But this is, I'm the only adult at the time, right? Because
So you're working adult.
right. So what we would do is we'd go to a congress, right? And I'd pay for the entrance, and then we would pregame because
We
couldn't drink. We couldn't buy a drink. You had to
We
pregame
thought-
before.
we thought we invented
that.
that. But now we know it was back
But
in the day they was already doing it.
We would take $40 every event. $40. What was that for? It was for DVDs. We would buy 4 DVDs and watch videos to learn about who was what. So one of the first DVDs I bought, for example, was at Puerto Rico, but I bought LA 2004. And you danced with Maria, and you guys did Celia tribute, I believe. I believe that was shortly after Celia passed away, and you guys did a Celia routine. And I remember your mannerisms and you know, like the way that you guys like did that song. But let me go back. There was conversations throughout the scene. Bianca may know about this, about Monty, the routine that you did. Everyone talked about it, right? So like people would go, oh, I remember Monty when after that beginning, that tun 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 tun, tun, right? And I would hear about it. Monty, 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 Monty. So I bought every single DVD looking for this choreography. And I could not find it. And what I was told was that in Puerto Rico Salsa Congress in 1999, Monty was performed. And what I was told, there's no offense to anybody, but this is what I was told, that was like the Eddie Torres team that was just like a knockout punch, that had like this cast of dancers that were just all young and talented, and that when you guys performed this at Puerto Rico, that it was just a complete game changer. And I'm gonna be honest, I didn't see that video until, I mean, more recent. I'm not gonna say like within the last year, but when you put it up, when you guys put it up on your channel, it was like, yo, I called that one. I'm like, this is it. It's finally the video that everyone, because a lot of people say that it inspired all types of people to do footwork numbers and stuff like that. So can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Well, I remember Monty, we debuted it in Eli's Congress in 1999. And I remember it was the first year that we actually attended his Congress. And I told the dancers, I said, dancers, I want to go there and really try to give them the best we can. Give them, and mind you, at that Congress, we had Johnny Vasco, we had Salsa Brava. Mm-hmm. They were great talents, all right? Mm-hmm. So I remember, for some reason, that number made such an impression. We did like 3 numbers, and I remember something funny. I told, I don't know if it was Ellie, but whoever was in charge of the shows, I said, listen, I have 2 numbers that I want to do tonight. And he said, no, Eddie, no, you could only do 1 number. I said, yeah, but these guys came all the way from New York. They paid for the airfare. I said, I'm not going to tell them they can't perform. He said, no, that's it. We're doing 1 number. I said, okay. So I started thinking. I said, all right. So here's what I did. I put them both together. I said, I'm gonna try to get away with it and say it was a medley. Belairi, as soon as you hear the ending, and then the next group will come on. And I think one of the guys from Medley said, Eddie, wasn't that too? I said, no, bro, that was a medley.
That was one routine. What are you talking about?
One routine. I said,
that's what Bear Canela did yesterday over here.
Eddie como si fuera solamente un show. Y eran los dos. And I understood because they had a lot of performances.
Right.
Yeah.
But I said, no, I can't tell these dancers they're not going to perform after they come all the way here. And that's how we pulled it off. And that's when you see the couples come out. Mm-hmm. I think it was called Caliente or something. It was a hot number. And
you did a hustle?
It wasn't hustle. No.
One couple.
No. There was a hustle component.
Oh, no. Here's what happened. That other number was called Azulito by Mario Bausa from the Machito Orchestra. And that, I think, how many dances did I have them? 39? For that number, and it was like a circus, man. I had fused all the different forms of dance that I was influenced by. So you saw some hustle dancing there with the lifts. Mm-hmm. You saw break dancing, the guys spinning on their head. Yeah. All right. You saw a little bit of jazz and typical, and we did some Charleston in there with the ladies with Charleston. So that number's also on YouTube if you haven't seen it. It's 1999, Irizarry's Congress. And that was the debut of that number of Azulito. And that was, for me, was one of the greatest experiences because I was so proud of the dancers, the way they actually came off in the show. Because we didn't get to do like a lot of tech rehearsal, a lot of stuff. So it was like, let's go out there and just try to do our best. And they did really great. So I have to compliment all the dancers.
You took 39 dancers to Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
In 1999.
It was a whole army.
Mi gente.
Irizarry, right? And it was amazing. And then, of course, in the Puerto Rico Congress, man, Eli would always hire the best bands. We were talking about Sonora Ponceña, Roberto Roena, Gran Combo. They didn't have no,
When we went Roberto Roena.
Oh man, he always brought out the all the giants, all the big guns, and everybody loved that. And I remember the hotel that I really loved of all the ones that they were working in during the Congress was the San Juan Hotel.
The ESJ.
The San Juan Hotel.
¿Verdad? ESJ.
Ahí empezó, ¿verdad, Eli? No empezó ahí. Empezó en el Caribe, después es San Juan, right? And in the San Juan, one of the things I loved is that the pool was open all night,
Yeah.
24 hours, and the beach. And so
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
would do,
We got some stories with
Check
that.
it out.
Yeah, we got some stories in
Eddie,
that place
lo
too.
que me gustaba is after the shows, everybody would go get dressed and everything and go to the socials. Meanwhile, Maria and I, we would sneak out, go upstairs, put on our bathing suits, and we would go to the pool. And they had like 5 different, jacuzzis. They had like 5 different jacuzzis around where the pool was, and Maria and I would go jacuzzi hopping. We would spend 20 minutes here, then go to the next jacuzzi, and we were hanging out like at 3 or 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
You know? And I said,
remember
man, I
those
love
days.
this hotel. 24-hour beach and pool. And the hotel was beautiful. They had a casino. You know?
Yeah.
It was a great,
They have a
great.
beautiful bar in the middle, once at the at
Oh,
the
yeah.
entrance.
In the pool, they got a bar and everybody's drinking pina coladas and rum and coke. And it was such a great scene. I'm telling you, know what I like to always share? I only wish I could take all of today's generation dances. I wish I could put them in a time machine and take them back to those days where we didn't have socials. Back in the 60s, 70s, and maybe even 80s, it wasn't about socials. It wasn't even about DJs. Everything was live music, live. I mean, you can go club hopping back in the day. If you wanted to catch Eddie Palmieri, he was here at this club. Then you would maybe catch a set with him and take a ride across town. And over another club, you had Tito Puente. Down here, you had Ricardo Rey. There was a club called the Hunts Point Palace in the Bronx, where I live now, where we live. And on some special occasions, they would feature, you're not going to believe this, they would feature 10 top name bands. I have posters on my Facebook to show the people because they say, Eddie, that can't be true. 10 bands, you know how much they charge? $5.
Damn, bro.
$5.
That's so crazy.
You can't even buy a Coke these days for $5 in the club. And who are we talking about? We're talking about Ricardo Rey, Ray Barreto, Harlow, Joe Cuba, you name it, Puente.
That's crazy.
All in one night. They would all play like one quick set, and it was like they had 2 bands. I remember at the Hunts Point, they had 2 bands. When this band finished, 2 seconds later, boom, this band would start. When that band finished, back to the stage, that band. It was amazing. $5. $5.
Christ.
Okay?
Eddie, when did you start traveling for dance?
You know, that's a good question. I mean, we did a few.
I'm not here.
We did a few things with Tito. I remember Tito would take us. Tito took us to we went to Colombia with Tito when he did the 100 LP. We did 3 cities in 3 nights. We did Bogota, we did Cali, and Medellin. I think it was the 3 nights with the 100 LP. Oh, what an experience! Oh my God! So I would say also when Irizarry invited me in 1999. I remember then I started traveling, and then all of a sudden, after Eli, I believe the next big Congress was Albert Torres's
West Coast.
Corríame si estoy mal. ¿Verdad? Albert, después de ti, ¿verdad? Entonces empezó Albert. Albert, I think, because Albert used to MC at Eli's Congress. And I believe...
Una bulla!
Yeah. When he saw what was going on, I think Albert said, wait a minute, I got to take this to L.A.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you hear about the LA Congress, right? And little by little, it started snowballing. Then all of a sudden, Congress here, Congress there. And, and I got to say this, I always felt bad because I felt that New York was the real, what they call la cuna from everything. From Cuba, when they started coming here, Machito, Arsenio, from here, the Palladium, I felt that somebody here should have had the vision that Eli had and start the Congress in New York. And I said, look at that. We fell asleep. So Eli, ¿cuándo fue tu primer congreso, Eli? ¿90 qué? 30 años qué? 30 años qué?
El año que viene, next year.
So Eli had the vision, and I kept saying, man, somebody fell asleep. I said, we should have had a Congress in New York. Because New York, I'm telling you, Eli, te recuerda, when I went to Puerto Rico with Maria in 1989, we got a gig, we got a job to work with Ismael Miranda, the singer, y Raúl Carbonell, because Tito Puente went on a show that they used to air in Puerto Rico on Friday nights called Salsa. And when Tito went there, he told Ismael Miranda, he says, you should bring Eddie Torres here, because it would be nice for him to start teaching and spreading dancing on too, like we were doing in New York. And Puerto Rico has always had great dancers. I could only name a few, like Tito y Tamara. I love them. I call them the classic representation of Puerto Rico in every which form, not just in dance, but in character and in everything. They just are just a beautiful representation of Puerto Rico. So when I heard you say what you said last night, I was sitting there going, amen, it's true. Tito and Tamara are like the representation, the ambassadors for Puerto Rico. And I remember I said, Tito, who started you off? And he mentioned his name. He mentioned a name like Papito Hala Hala, right?
Sure.
And ¿quién más eran los duros en ese tiempo, Eli?
Excuse me, my English is not as good as I need.
Not good looking, como decía Celia.
Y el micrófono ponlo más cerca.
Hola.
Dile, Eli.
Okay,
Cuando-
before
Dilo en
he,
español, si yo...
before he talks, I just want to give you guys some context, because sometimes, again, like I try to be a historian and then pay attention to everything, but not everybody understands. This is the gentleman that created this festival concept that we have now. The first ever Salsa Congress was Puerto Rico Salsa Congress in 1997. And it was the first time that someone had created a conference of this type where you can have classes all day and have shows and have performances. Okay, so his vision has created an opportunity, just like Eddie's vision has taken this dance and made it international. His concept is now internationally known all over the world, and every time we go to a dance event, it's because he started it, and this is one of the reasons why we want to have him up here. So I think he deserves a hand.
Yeah. Yes.
Y tú puedes hablar inglés, español, como te sienta cómodo.
And
Pero-
we'll translate it in case.
Okay.
Siguiendo la línea de lo que él dice, ahora, en este momento algunas personas calculan que se celebran más de 3,000 eventos alrededor del mundo con el concepto del Congreso, que empezó en el 97, solamente exhibiciones, solamente performances, y que en el 2001 le incluimos una competencia, que a principio fue bien difícil que la gente aceptara la competencia, pero ahora, Congreso que no tenga competencia, la gente no quiere ir.
Sí, es verdad, Meli.
Y yo entiendo porque competencia no era algo que estaba aceptable.
No era aceptable.
Competition wasn't, when I first started dancing, competition was almost frowned upon, right? And I'll give a shout out. I just saw Anya in the room. I'll give a shout out to Anya.
Where's Anya?
And Adriano and Samantha too, our
Hi,
champions.
darling.
But it wasn't. We weren't open to it.
Yeah.
Right. So even in 2001, you can just imagine the pushback back
yeah.
then, and how long it took for it to continue.
Ahora, Ila, ¿de dónde viene la idea? ¿Cómo empieza todo?
Mira, a mí me conectaron internet en mi casa en la víspera de Thanksgiving, noviembre de 1996.
¿Eso fue AOL que te llegó a ti?
No, antes de eso.
Ok.
Era cuando uno se conectaba al internet, le ponía en search, en búsqueda, yo le puse salsa, le dabas enter y salía un relojito dando vueltas.
Ajá.
Tú te levantabas, te preparabas un sándwich, colabas café y mirabas de acá y todavía el relojito estaba dando vueltas.
Y no podía usar el teléfono.
Ya no
Tampoco,
podía.
no.
Nobody can use the phone. I gotta use the internet. Everybody get off the phone, right?
Si te entraba una llamada se caía el internet.
Yeah.
Entonces, yo empecé a mirar y a contactar gente ahí inmediatamente y me surgió la inquietud, mira qué interesante, de que la gente de Puerto Rico entendiera que la salsa, el baile de salsa no era nuestro. En ese momento, la gente de Puerto Rico se creía que eran los únicos que bailaban o bailábamos. Pero cuando yo entré ahí y empecé a mirar, dije, uff, increíble. Eso fue miércoles en la noche. El lunes por la mañana yo había escrito, yo soy periodista, yo había escrito un congreso de salsa, un concepto de congreso de salsa que todavía hoy hay cosas que no he podido hacer, porque me fui en un viaje creativo y empecé a añadir cosas, pero fue interesante, fue por el internet, básicamente.
Ok. Y el primer año que tú lo hiciste, ¿cuánta gente te llegaron?
Bueno, yo le dije a la compañía de turismo de Puerto Rico que habían ido 350 personas de 15 países, pero no fue verdad. La verdad, no tengo idea de cuántos fueron. Yo calculo 250 y sí fue mucha gente de diferentes países. Lo más interesante es del Congreso, como concepto, la gente que los ve ahora, estos congresos maravillosos, no sabe que yo no tenía idea de lo que iba a hacer. Y que la gente que viajó a Puerto Rico, te estoy hablando de gente de Alemania, de Bélgica, de España, de todos lados, no tenía ni idea de para dónde iban y qué era lo que iba a pasar allí. Pero ya había un espíritu, un sabor en el aire, lo voy a sentir, de que era el momento para empezar a reunirse la gente con diferentes estilos, bailando. Por ejemplo, allí descubrimos que los holandeses marcan al frente con el pie derecho.
Déjame explicar eso.
En República Dominicana también hay unas áreas que pasa.
Y en Curazao. So, if you, there's a lot of dancers that we had met from Holland, like in my time traveling. And this happens in DR too. You'll see a lot of people mark with their right foot. They'll break with their right foot forward. As opposed to like whether you're dancing on one or on two, like when we go forward, we break with our left. They break different. So I've heard Nelson Flores say when this first happened, he was like, wait a minute, are we right? Are they right? You know, who's doing this correctly? Because it was actually a shock to see, hey, they're doing it backwards. But if you're not connected, you do it your way, we do it our way. When we come together, there may be a clash.
But everybody was right.
Everybody was right. That's the point,
Yeah,
right?
Porque eso era lo que habían aprendido, lo que habían aprendido de sus padres y de sus abuelos.
Yeah. And Eddie, you mentioned this to me once too. You said, you know, when people danced back in the days, people danced on one, people danced on two, on three. Everybody kind of did their own thing, right? Like because there was no structure and connection, people did it however they did it, and it was all salsa. You can't really say that it wasn't.
Let me explain that. Let me go into depth with that. What happened was after June Liberta sat me down like when you go to school, and I would take notes, and she would teach me all about the theory, the timing, men's timing, ladies' timing, all that structure you gave. And then after I started taking that and learning it, then I would go to the clubs and I say, now I know why with some of the ladies that I would dance, we would connect beautiful. Others, it was almost like we would clash. And then after I realized that she was teaching me about timing and I started looking at people's feet, I realized, oh, wait a minute, she's not dancing on two. She's breaking on the one. This other one's breaking on the 4 and 8. This one's she's breaking on the 1 and 5, or the 3 and 7. I said, that's what it was. The two dances would connect because you're both in sync. 2 forward, 2 back. One dances, 1 forward. And then that was a revelation to me. Because then after that point, I said, you know what? Now, all I have to do is walk into a club and look at the dancers' feet, especially the ladies. And I said, I could ask her to dance because she's on 2. You know? And that's why this whole idea came out years later that people wear a T-shirt on 1, on two, like letting you know if you're gonna ask me,
Or-
this is
Pass
a-
me out, pass me out.
Or whatever.
This was letting you know if you come to me and I have my on two T-shirt, then that means that you dance on two, and we're gonna be able to connect. But now, Jeff, that really blew me away because I said, "Damn!" All along, I was saying, "Why is it that I don't connect with all the ladies I dance with?" And that revelation came when I realized after June taught me. She said, "Eddie, just look at people's feet now that you know about timing, and now you're gonna understand immediately who's the two, who's the one." I used to say 1, 2, I understand. Even 4 and 8, I understand. 1 and 5, but 3 and 7, I said, I think those are aliens. I never understood how do they feel the 3 and the 7. So I used to make fun of it, but now I realize. And what you're saying about the people marking forward, when I first saw that, I said, no, they didn't. And then somebody explained to me, he says, Eddie, that's the way we do it here. And then, of course, you know how we are in human nature. Right away, people want to start the whole competition and comparing. Eddie, they would try to get me involved in this. Eddie, why don't you tell the people, don't you agree that dancing on 2 is better than dancing on 1? I said, stop right there. Stop right there. Before you try to get me involved in that mess, I said, no, I don't agree with that. What I feel is, and this, my mother used to always say that, Eddie, my mamá decía, mijo, para el gusto se hicieron los colores. In other words, that in English means, that's why God has given us all these beautiful colors. So if you like blue and I like red, why would I say that red is better than blue, all right? Same thing in timing. When people would try to argue the fact that, no, but 2 is better than 1.
Se cayó.
No, la base.
¿Está bien?
La pata se está virando.
Okay.
Me salvaste.
Sí.
Gracias. He said he just
We'll
saved
edit
me
that,
from
don't
falling
worry.
on my
Yeah, we'll
ass.
edit that out. Hila, yo tengo 2 puntos y una pregunta. Primeramente, mi hermano y yo tuvimos la experiencia de visitar Puerto Rico hace como 2 o 3 semanas. Ahí el concierto de Bad Bunny, que era algo muy, muy impresionante. Pero me he dado cuenta que la idea fue tuya, o te deben dinero para que le cobre a Benito. Porque tú fuiste el primero que trajiste toda la gente a Puerto Rico hace 30 años. Segundo, algo muy personal, que Jeff y yo como siempre lo pensamos. ¿Qué tú piensas tú gastaste el primer año para hacer el evento?
¿Cuánto qué?
¿Cuánto
¿Cuánto
gastaste
gastaste?
para hacer el evento?
Un susto y mirar para atrás.
Yo no tengo idea,
Ok.
porque como te expliqué ahorita, yo no sabía lo que yo iba a hacer. Y hubo cosas que fueron momentáneas, gastos inmediatos.
Sí.
Después de la primera noche, una tarima nueva, porque Venezuela trajo danza Xiomara Vasconcelos, trajo como 25 bailarines y los quería subir todos a la misma vez a una tarima, que las patas de la tarima eran así flaquitas.
Sí.
Y los bajamos y le dijimos mañana. Y traje una tarima nueva.
Wow.
Pero para que tengas una idea de lo que decía Eddie de la música. La experiencia en el Congreso de Puerto Rico con la música es diferente.
Ujú.
El primer año, la música fue el jueves el Gran Combo, el primer año. El jueves el Gran Combo, el viernes Willy Rosario, el sábado Roberto Roena y el domingo Andy Montañez.
What a line.
Crema,
Dude,
la
are you-
crema.
Dude, el gran como on Thursday. ¿Tú te imaginas?
Crazy, man.
Siempre nosotros enfatizamos esa parte de la música y en el caso de los congresos, cuando llegó Bacardí, que Eddie estaba explicando ahorita,
Sí.
Bacardí nos dio un dinero para crear una gira mundial. Ahí visitamos como 50 ciudades alrededor del mundo. Fuimos a India.
¿Y cómo empezó esa relación? Porque Jeff y yo siempre hablamos sobre
Sí. Y
intentando
se llamaba el Bacardi
el congreso.
Congress.
Bacardi
sí,
Salsa Congress.
Right.
¿Cómo tú llegaste a la relación con Bacardi
Con
entre
los amigos de
congresos?
Bacardí de Puerto Rico,
Sí.
me consiguieron una reunión con Bacardí Global. Y en Bacardí Global estaba dirigiéndolo Joaquín Bacardí III, que es nació en Cuba, pero a lo bien pequeñito se fue para Puerto Rico y es un puertorriqueño más. Y entonces él nos abrió las puertas, le empezamos a explicar el concepto, nos compró la idea y ahí cada año hacíamos 12 viajes a diferentes, pero no eran viajes de un fin de semana, hubo viajes de 3 fines de semana. nosotros viajamos a Europa con 40 personas, pagos por Bacardí. Pues te estoy hablando de Johnny con Olivia Dazo, Salsa Brava, Los Rumberos, Gentleman de Venezuela, los San Paoli, los hermanos San Paoli de Italia, de Puerto Rico Papa Tambor, que ahí estaba Tito Horto, Jorge Santana y Dicky Colón.
That was after. Eso fue después de Papito Jala Jala, ¿verdad? Ese grupo.
Eso fue después. Y viajaba Jason Molina con, ¿cómo se llama la nena que bailaba? Jason y Brenda Bird.
Brenda
Bird.
Sí, sí, sí.
Tremenda pareja. Y así nosotros hacíamos unos equipos, unos teams. Y nos íbamos.
Ok, 1997, el primer congreso. ¿Cómo usted hace la promoción para que toda la gente sepa lo que está pasando?
Internet. Solamente internet.
Solamente eso.
Empecé a buscar.
Internet y rezar, porque uno ni sabe si uno lo está mirando, ¿verdad?
A lot of prayer. Y la conexión, por ejemplo, ¿verdad? Yo siempre oigo de Puerto Rico 97, que fue el primero, pero siempre oigo del 99, porque ese fue el año que Nueva York fue. Correct? This is the first year that you went, but also others went.
I believe other dancers from New York. No sé si tú contas.
Bueno, Nelson fue el primero.
Mucho. No fue Nelson solamente.
Sí.
Fue Santo Rico, fue Team New York y fue alguien más que no recuerdo.
¿Quién fue Team New York? Fausto. Perdón. I'm sorry. There was a Team New York
ellos se llamaban Team New York porque no eran ellos se reunieron para hacer una coreografía. Yo tengo el video del primer año.
Oh, I need that.
Después de Azulito es que se llama la coreografía.
Azulito, sí,
después de Azulito, la coreografía más épica de la historia del baile de salsa a nivel mundial fue Sonero de Bailadores, que lo bailaron ahí.
Yes.
7 minutos.
Yes.
¿Tú te imaginas ahora Nelson Flores bailando 7 minutos?
Se me muere.
Imposible.
Aquí mismo se cae. Ahí.
Y después de eso, esa coreografía la hicieron todo el mundo.
Hoy
60, 80
tengo
personas.
algo que mucha gente no saben. My brother Abel.
Oh, yeah.
Wait a minute. He danced with Descarga Latina. He started with
Descarga
Nelson
Latina
Flores.
fue también.
Sí.
He started with Nelson Flores. I started with Santo Rico. Edwin started with Santo Rico. But something that so me and Edwin started here, he started with Descarga. So they say, okay, who performed first? Who was the first one that got an opportunity to do a pro show? So I always say guess, and everybody's guess is always Edwin, which is incorrect.
Because he sucked.
No, that's not why, but they go Edwin, right? And then they go, no, Edwin, then you. And I go, no. And they're like, how is it? You guys were on the... Abel didn't come till way later on. But in 2006, tú hiciste los 10 años. He did the 10-year anniversary.
En Puerto Rico, sí.
And Santo Rico, you asked Santo Rico to do Soneros de Bailadores, and they needed another guy. And Abel, we and Edwin were not ready, but Abel was. He was dancing with Nelson.
Sí,
so Abel actually danced with Santo Rico in 2006 at the 10-year anniversary. He's the only kid on stage. It's not Thomas, Mario B,
17 años
Nelson Flores, what was his name? Steve Seda.
Yep.
And him as a kid.
Yeah.
He actually danced Soneros de Bailadores.
En Puerto Rico, la primera vez yo en Puerto Rico.
Pero eso...
Yeah.
O sea, 10 años
Ese
después.
fue
el 10 años.
Todo el mundo en Nueva York.
Algo.
Todo el mundo en Nueva York que tenga 45 años o más, se sabe la coreografía.
Sí.
Yeah.
Porque todo el mundo la bailó en algún momento.
Pero déjame decirte algo. Yo 17 años, mejor viaje de mi vida.
Me imagino.
Ay, Dios mío, Eric.
We had a good time on that trip. We definitely had a good time in that trip.
Bueno, Puerto Rico, ¿eh?
Ay, Dios, me paran los pelos pensándolo. We had a good time on that trip.
Y el próximo año tú vas a cumplir ¿cuánto?
30 aniversario. 30 años.
30 years next year.
Eli, ¿a dónde lo está haciendo ahora? ¿En qué hotel?
El año próximo lo vamos a hacer en el Caribe Hilton, en el mismo lugar donde nació.
Wow.
En el mismo ballroom.
Es en el condado, ¿verdad? Ahí mismo antes del puente, ya entrando a San Juan.
Sí.
Okay,
Ahí.
I know what hotel that is.
I remember. By the way, does everybody here speak Spanish?
They're learning
No, it's
today.
okay. It's okay. In English, it's okay.
If they,
No,
they
no, no. Pero,
When I put it on, we're gonna
hold
sap it.
Yeah,
at the
I love
bottom.
to say this. I said, "What? You don't speak Spanish?" I said, "You better learn. You're in America now.
word.
We speak. Hablamos español aquí ahora. See? All right. Now, Eli, just so you know, and I just want to. Yo sé que tú te recuerdas cuando falleció Tito Puente. He gave me permission to do a tribute to Tito Puente at the Caribe Hilton. I remember that. Okay, I invited at that time Johnny Vasquez and Olivia Dasso. They were like the team. They were like the Augie and Margot of the group Salsa Brava. And I love them. I love them like they're my children. And I remember that he joined in to do this tribute that we did like a medley of all of Tito's numbers with his picture up there. And it was an amazing experience. And Eli allowed us to do this tribute. And that's when Eli invited me to introduce when Johnny Vasquez was going to perform at the Congress. He said, Eli, why don't you introduce them? I said, sure. So I remember as I'm ready to introduce them, I said, listen, tonight I want to just establish that for me, in my opinion, in my mind, in my heart, I'm going to consider Johnny Vasquez El Príncipe de la Salsa.
And he still is.
Yes, yeah. I said, I'm gonna give him that title because I was so impressed with his dancing and his style. I said, you remind me of the Nicholas brothers when you slide under the girls. I said, para mí tú eres el príncipe. And until today, he's known as El Príncipe de la Salsa. Yes. Okay? So that I remember. And I believe that was the year when, at 2001 or 2000, por ahí. Bueno, Tito passed away in 2000. This might have been 2001. Mm-hmm. So, este año vuelve al Caribe. ¿Eh?
Al Caribe Hilton.
Y vamos todos. Tenemos que ir.
Tenemos
soportar,
que ir.
apoyar.
Sí, sí.
Wow,
y va a ser bien interesante porque
¿Cuándo va a ser?
¿Cuáles son las fechas?
Julio 30, 31 y agosto 1.
Oh, especial.
Pero,
una buena fecha. Aquí no tengo absolutamente nada que hacer aquí en Nueva York, coño.
Wait, the last weekend in July, I have nothing to do. I will definitely be.
You should all, we all, you know what, coño, yo como tengo un conjunto que voy a traer.
To do that weekend.
Wow.
I have absolutely nothing to do, seriously.
En este momento, el Congreso, como Congreso, es 3 días.
Sí.
Pero el evento hoy tiene 10 días.
10 días.
10 days in
para los que quieran ir antes.
Como vacación.
Vamos a tener
el open,
un museo.
Yeah.
Vamos a hacer viajes a fiestas patronales en bus. Vamos a hacer una experiencia diferente porque a Puerto Rico, específicamente a Puerto Rico, tú no puedes ir a un congreso de salsa y quedarte dentro del edificio.
No, obvio.
Eso es perder el tiempo.
Sí, obvio.
Tienes que hacer tu playa, los restaurantes están espectaculares, el viejo San Juan, pero los que vayan tienen que tener una experiencia de la calle.
Sí.
De cómo es que se vive la salsa en la calle en Puerto Rico, que fue donde todos nosotros, ahí fue que aprendió Stacy López, ahí fue que nació la leyenda de Papito Jala Jala, y así por el estilo. Yo quiero este año que la gente que vaya tenga la oportunidad de ir a las fiestas patronales, que hay varias durante esa semana. El proyecto grande que está en construcción y que no puedo confirmar hoy, en el aniversario 15, yo hice 15 años, 15 noches, 15 fiestas. Y este año yo quiero hacer 30 años, 30 noches, 30 fiestas.
Wow. Déjame decirte, Eli, yo no puedo. Yo no aguanto, no.
I can do a few.
10 te doy, pero difícil, pero 30.
Lo que
pasa es hablar con Rasny, con ese ahí.
Ese mismo, tú te llevas ese por 30
te llevas
días.
ese,
Tú y él ahí andando, conduce.
30 days and 30 nights of partying.
Bueno,
tú te lo llevas a él.
Y Eri, déjame decirte, si Eri lo hace, yo lo hago, entonces.
Tiene que tener una línea de ambulancia ahí.
Claro.
O ambulancia o enfermera.
Ancianos, Después de que 30 días, chacho, para la emergencia.
Lo que pasa es que el proyecto está pensado para una marca que yo tengo que se llama Destino Salsa.
Okay.
Y nosotros queremos declarar a Puerto Rico Destino Salsa.
Okay.
porque el gobierno lo sabe, pero no lo admite. Y nosotros queremos hacer una declaración de que Puerto Rico es destino salsa.
Okay.
¿Qué quiere decir
Y de
destino?
que
Explícame eso. Destino salsa. El concepto detrás de eso, ¿cuál es?
Porque Puerto Rico tú puedes ir en cualquier momento, no tienes que esperar al Congreso y al Día Nacional, porque en cualquier momento que tú vayas vas a tener una experiencia de salsa.
Ok. Okay.
Y lo otro que nos gustaría hacer, no sabemos si lo vamos a poder hacer, es declarar a julio como el mes mundial de la salsa. Y en cada fin de semana vamos a atender públicos diferentes. Hay un fin de semana que es de coleccionistas, ahí está el museo, ahí se va a hacer vinilos, solamente vinilos.
No va a haber cassettes.
Hay un montón de... Hay un montón de...
Vinyls are those black
proyectos.
round things that spin and play music just in case.
Just in case.
Okay.
Back to the future.
Before I close up, one thing, just real quick, I didn't ask you. How many years have you, like, been dancing, like hitting the streets or learning? How many years? I never mentioned that.
Okay. I started dancing, and this is how I remember. Eddie Palmieri released an album, Azúcar Pa' Ti. I believe it was 1965. And Jeff, I don't know if you know the story behind how I got into
Yes,
dancing.
I do.
Well, it was with Eddie Palmieri's song, Azúcar Pa' Ti, which he took a 9-minute piano solo that had never been done before, all right? So I would say I was 15 years old in 1965. Today I'm 75. So if you do the math, how many years?
60 years?
Dancing, right?
Yeah. Is that right? I'm a math teacher. If I don't get that, my kids
60
are in
years,
big
Jeff.
trouble.
60 years. And the thing is, I realize now that I grew up in a time in New York City where the mambo and the cha-cha-cha were the two most popular dances, especially for the youth of our time, along with all of the stuff that was happening with the boogaloo and the street dances. But back in the day, again, there were no teachers, there were no socials, none of this existed. But one thing for sure, you could catch live bands everywhere. You can go to 10 different clubs in one night, and everyone had a live band. And of course, like I said, back in the day, you paid $5. You know, that really blows my mind, because today, what are you going to get for $5? And Eddie Palmieri holds a special place in my heart because I followed him just like I followed Tito Puente. Eddie Palmieri, his music always did something special to me. That's like last year, Jeff, if you remember, I did a tribute to Eddie Palmieri. And the reason I did it last year, because I always say that if they're going to do something for you, any tribute or anything, do it while the person is still alive.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's the way I feel about this. That's why I say Eddie Palmieri, I heard last year, he was already very fragile. His health was already very fragile. And I said, you know what? I want to do a tribute now, because if anything, he might hear about it or he might get to see it at some point. But I wanted him to know that I wanted to do this while he was still alive. Just like when Tito passed, I said, at least I can honestly say I've had so many good memories and so many years of dancing with Tito and his orchestra. And I always said, till today, I still feel that they haven't done enough to give Tito his recognition and the tributes that he deserves. That's how come you see every year I don't leave him out. I did last night. I did his number. That was Tito's number. Tonight I'm doing a tribute to him and Celia Cruz, and then I'm going to end it up with a tribute to Eddie Palmieri. And I determined myself, Jeff, that while I'm still here, and if you still want me here until I'm no longer on this earth, I'll keep coming to your event because I love this event. I was here from the first one. I've been here since day one, and I love this event. It's in my hometown. And I believe David Melendez was the first founder of the New York Salsa Congress. And I really look forward to this Congress. And as I wrote to you, I complimented you and your brother and your team. You're doing an amazing job. And like I said, while I'm still around, I will support you. And I'm sure the generation out here, they're going to continue supporting you. But I will always bring a tribute number to those pioneers who are no longer with us. And unless we do this, unless we play their music, choreograph it, and share it. I share in my class when people say, Eddie, who's this? I said, this is Tito Puente. This is so-and-so. This is Machito. And I said, this is the way we keep them alive. Because if you don't keep doing, like sharing their music and using it, before you know it, you ask people, the younger generation, do you know who Mario Balsa is? Or do you know who Tito Puente is? They may not know. And Tito used to say this, in order to keep the music alive, you got to dance to it. In order to keep the dance alive, you got to keep playing the music.
Correct.
So that's why I always tell my students, share it, use it, pass it down to the next generation. This is how we keep those pioneers and those cultural heroes, as I like to call them. We keep their memory alive by doing this, yes?
Yeah.
Okay,
Amen to that.
so for Omar and Rosny, make sure you do my tribute before anything happens to me. All right?
Jeffrey,
They're
let me
waiting.
say that I meant to say in the beginning. I remember this. One day, I was in one of these events, and Jeffrey came up to me, and he told me like this. He had like a gangster attitude. He said, Eddie Torres, on the next boot camp, I want to be in it. And I never forgot that because it was the way he came to me like,
Yeah.
I don't want to hear no for an answer. You know?
I really wanted to be Eddie Torres dancer.
Yeah, we all do.
And all I kept saying.
I'm crushed.
Yeah,
I
no.
really wanted to dance for you.
That's the one thing that we
That's the
wish.
one. I've done everything that I've wanted to do in terms of a dancer. My goals. The only thing I didn't get to do was dance with.
So
be
what
Eddie
that
Torres
means is that
dancer.
for the 25th year anniversary in New York, which we're supposed to be celebrating next year, we got to do
I'm gonna
some
do-
partner work on stage.
I would
with
love
Eddie
it.
Torres.
I would love it because I never forgot that. When he said that, I said yes. And I was so flattered by it. I said, Jeffrey, you want to dance in my boot camp? I went home thinking that.
We're recording this. No,
Yeah,
diga que
yeah,
sí.
no,
You
no,
can't
we
go
got
back.
witnesses.
You can't go
No,
back
no,
now.
I'm saying it because now we got witnesses because
can't
I
go
remember
back.
him saying that to me,
Yeah.
and I was very taken
But
back
I
by
want
it.
to
I
do it the
to- I
right
to-
way. I want to put on the
Listen.
Eddie Torres. I want to go all full throttle.
I
I want to go 1,000% old school.
Listen,
With the custom shoes, I want to do the whole deal.
I told Anya off. I told her off. Because she came into my studio one day. She said, guess what? I'm going to dance with Eddie. And I was like, get out of my face. I don't want to
Really?
hear this.
Yeah.
You guys did a show together a couple years ago, right?
quiero-
Am I wrong?
Oh, yeah. Oh, what
Yes.
a
Quiero
what a
compartir
treat.
algo.
Yeah.
What a
¿Quiere
treat and
bailar
a
también,
pleasure.
Hila?
Sí, yo quiero.
Ok.
Quiero compartir algo con las personas que están viendo el podcast y los
Sí.
que están aquí presentes. Mis respetos para ustedes en la organización de este evento.
Gracias.
La gente piensa que con el dinero que te va a sobrar aquí vas a ir a comprar un edificio
yacht.
de 8
yacht.
pisos
Sí.
en downtown y es el riesgo que se toman los organizadores.
Lo que
Yo no quiero ver, no me inviten a una reunión donde haya que hacer el P&L
No.
de este evento porque no voy a resistir.
Yeah. He said, yeah.
Mira,
with this,
Hila,
with
para
this
que
event,
tú sepas, todos los bailarines le pusieron un GPS a Jeffrey anoche para asegurarse que se le paguen a aquel hoy.
what this event is going to buy me is a lot of therapy for the next 4 months. A lot of therapy. So, anyway, here's my point. 60 years of dancing, 30 years as an organizer. To me, I'm beyond flattered.
Yes,
I'm
muchas
beyond
gracias.
honored
Thank
to sit with you guys. I want to say to both of you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I think that, the mark of greatness is when everything after you bears your name. That is true greatness. Todo después de ustedes tiene el nombre de ustedes. So if you think about it.
Yeah.
You started dancing, you started doing your thing, but everything, doesn't matter who it is, right? Us as dancers, we're all Eddie Torres dancers, whether we realize it or not. I don't care who it is, okay? And when we talk about organizing events, no matter what, he created the original blueprint. We are all following a blueprint he created 30 years ago. And we can sit back and say, well, I can sit back and go, well, mine is different. I sat down and I tried to do an interview on it. No, this is just an add-on. What I'm doing is exactly what you did. Because when my first Congress performing was not New York, it was Puerto Rico. My first show ever in an event was Puerto Rico Salsa Congress.
Uf, Eddie, todavía lo estoy pensando, Eddie.
We had a lot of
Qué
fun.
rico que lo
But
pasamos.
that's besides the point, right? the truth is that no matter what, you know, um, you know, whether it's my event or it's anybody else's event, everything that we're doing is a spin-off of something that you created 30 years ago with a vision, basically saying, hey, what if we did this? And he started with 200 people. That's a social for us now. He started with 200 people, and he grew it into a product that is now, you guys did, I don't know if you caught it, but he said there's about 3,000 festivals a year. Think about that.
Yeah.
3,000 festivals a year. And if you ask, you know, he said that he put a simple structure, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7 on a count. Let's think about how many instructors and how many people, and I don't care what school you go to, whether you're with us at Huracán, or you're with Pierre Canela,
Or you're in Canada,
or you're in
in
Canada,
Novaira,
or
right?
you're in Yamule, or you're in this, or you're in that. You're gonna learn a basic step, and the next thing you're gonna learn is a Suzy Q.
Yeah.
Yeah? Go to
Alright.
any studio, and it's like, oh, here's my
Aunque-
step
y
list.
para nosotros,
Aunque le cambies el nombre.
Yeah.
Okay,
que le
even
cambie
if
el
you
nombre.
change the name, you know, oh, it's a crossover. There's a Suzy Q. I
Even if
understand.
you're a terrible knockoff, like down from 26th Street. But anyways, más importante yo pienso es que cuando fuimos a la clase de Eri, cuando fuimos al Congreso por la primera vez, era como un sentimiento que no se puede explicar. Y nosotros intentamos, yo no sé si estamos llegando a ese nivel, a reproducir ese sentimiento para los demás ahora. Eso porque es importante para nosotros, para tenerlo ustedes aquí sentados con nosotros, para que primeramente preservar la historia de nuestro baile y también aprender, porque obviamente lo que se recuerda no son los bailes, son los momentos y la familia que uno crece en el camino. So, muchas gracias a ustedes para estar con nosotros. Ladies and gentlemen, please give these gentlemen
Now,
a round of applause.
Let me close by saying this. I cannot end this interview without saying that I have a woman who's been by my side since day one. When I first shared the vision, I met Maria at Roberto Clemente State Park. I was teaching salsa there, and she was teaching gymnastics. A long story short, she came, took my class, and I realized immediately, I said, this young lady has beautiful talent. When I first saw Maria, when I walked into Roberto Clemente State Park, there was a balcony. I looked over the balcony, and she was hanging out with her gymnastic friend she was teaching.
Brincate.
No. I looked, and I was with this guy, Jackie Trujillo. I said, Jackie, you see that beautiful young lady there? Which one? The beautiful one with the little short, poom shorts over there. With the,
Hey, girl.
I said,
Hey.
I said this kind of kidding me. I said, that's my future wife. He said, you keep dreaming, right? A month or two later, who's standing by the door while I'm teaching like this with her attitude, looking at me? And I looked over, I said, oh no, there goes my future wife. And so I invited her to come in. She didn't know anything about this dance, but I asked her, I said, you want to take my class? She said, no, I dance. I said, oh, really? I said, can you show me your style of dancing? And I put on some music. Show them how you started dancing.
Oh.
This is the first thing she did when I invited her to dance.
Hey.
I said, oh, dang, that's how mom and dad dances at home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hola,
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 mom
hola,
and
epa, hola, epa. And then I thought for a minute, I said, oh, wait a minute, I don't know if this is going to work. But then immediately I said, this might be the exact key I need to get to know her. I said, maybe if she takes class, I'll get to know her and teach her. But little did I know, Jeff, that she had already been dancing jitterbug, hustle, she tap dance. She already knew about that. She just didn't know anything about this dance we call salsa today. And immediately when she started taking class, she was like this. She picked up everything, and I realized, oh my God, this girl's got talent. So I don't know how long after that, but I said, Maria, listen, I have this dream and this vision of one day performing with Tito Puente. She didn't even know who Tito Puente was. She says, who's Tito Puente? And so I started teaching her, and she picked up, well, to make a long story short, like 6 months after I met her, I taught her the two choreographies that we started with Dance with Tito, which was Palladium Days, which it's on video, and El Cayuco, the cha-cha.
Mm-hmm.
I taught her that, and she ate it up. And then at that time, oh my God, there's not enough time for this, Jeff. Because I wanted to share the story how the whole thing with Tito Puente came about. So one day at the Corso, to make I'll try to talk a little faster now. I'm at the Corso dancing. After Tito would finish, I would always compliment him about his music. I love it. And one day he just came off the stage. He said, "Come here. What's your name?" I said, "My name is Eddie." He said, "Eddie," he says, "have you ever considered dancing in a professional level?" And I said, "Tito, my dream in life is to one day dance and perform like I saw Augie and Margot perform with you at the Roseland." He said, "Do you have a dance partner? Do you have an act?" I said, "No." He said, "Get an act together. When you do, let me know, and then maybe one day it'll happen." From that conversation, Jeff Abel, 8 years passed, 8 years, before I met Maria. All right? This was like from 72 to maybe 79 or something. 78. Well, anyway, when I met Maria, then when I choreographed and taught her these two numbers, I took her one night to a club where he was playing, and I said, "Tito, listen." Before he started playing, I walked up and said, "Tito," so you remember? He said, "I remember you. I'm tired of looking at you at the Corso every week dancing like a crazy person in front of me." I said, "Tito, remember you had said that if I had an act together that I would present it and maybe you give us a chance to perform?" I says, "I have my telephone number on this card. If you have any time, I'll meet you anywhere and I'll show you our choreography and a kind of audition for you, and you let me know if you think we could do a show with you." He said, "Eddie, I don't have time for that, but here's what I'm going to do for you." He said, "I'm going to introduce you to my musical director, this Italian guy named Jimmy Frisaura." He says, "You're going to tell him exactly what you need for the show if you want us to play like the record, bar for bar." He says, "And then in my next concert, I'm going to present you and Maria on my show." And I looked at him, I said, "Tito, wait a minute. You're going to put me on stage to perform without even seeing the choreography?" And you know what he said? "Eddie, I'm tired of seeing you dance. I know you can dance." He said, "How bad could it be?" he said, "If I like it, who knows what happens? And if not, you had your shot." He put it just like that, Jeff.
There you go.
And I said, "Okay, so you know where we debuted? There was a place that's now called Jazz at Lincoln Center, where the circle is.
Yeah.
It used to be called the New York Coliseum. And what were they having the day of that concert? They were having a Latin expo where all these Latin products would come and they would give people samples like Bustelo coffee, or all the different products. They were giving samples to people. It was a promotion thing, and he was hired to play for that event. When I walked in there was like thousands of people. It was like the Javits Center. And my knees started shaking. And I said, "Oh my God." And I took Maria, because when I saw Tito says, "Eddie, go put your costume on. I'm going to play 2 songs. I'm going to introduce you. I'm going to play 2 more songs, and I'll bring you out for your second act." Right? So sure enough, am I going fast enough for you guys?
Yeah, they're good.
So I got changed. And I was driving Maria crazy. Maria, we got to, and Maria said, "Man, relax. You got this." I said, "Yeah, you don't care because you don't even know who Tito Puente is." I said, "But you don't." I said, "But I'm shitting bricks here because this is it. This is what I've been waiting, and this is the big shot." And you know what? And sure enough, Tito grabs the mic after 2 songs. He says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I have a special surprise for you. Matter of fact, this is such a surprise. I don't even know what's going to happen here right now. I haven't seen it. But this is a young man who dances every week at the Corso when I'm playing. So he wanted to do a show. So tonight I'm going to have him do a debut with us and receive him with a round of applause." We came out, and when the first number we did was El Cayuco. Coco-copa, coco-pa, coco-copa. We came out. Oh, man, we were on fire. So we did that number, and the people were clapping. He said, "All right, Eddie, 2 more numbers, you come back again." He played 2 numbers, then he started playing Palladium Days. And we came out and we did that. We were all dressed in red with fringes. We were on fire. Because I said, "This is it. I said, Maria, we got to dance fire, flood tonight." And we were rolling on the floor, jump over Maria, flip her. I was going, And next thing I know, after we finished, the crowd was, they were clapping, and Tito was smiling. I thought Tito was smiling because he was happy what he was seeing. Later on, I discovered he's always playing like that. Because every time I would do the spin, I would look at his face. I said, "I think he likes it." No, that's the way he always plays. So I'm going to wrap it up now. After we finished, I got dressed, came back to talk to Tito to see if he liked it, and he was gone. Jimmy Frisaura, the musical director, was there. I said, "Jimmy, where's Tito?" He said he had another gig. He had to run out. I said, "Oh, man, I wanted to ask him what he thought about the numbers." He said, "I don't know what he thought. I liked it." He said, "I liked it." He said, "When you see him at the Corso next week, ask him." said, okay. So I went with Maria to the Corso, but I was so afraid to ask him, Jeff, that I didn't ask him. Because I didn't want to hear, oh, that was awful. No, forget about it. I didn't ask him, right? But that was a Sunday. On Monday, the next day, he was in Queens in a place called the Pan American Hotel, which no longer exists.
On Queens Boulevard.
And I went there with Maria, and we just went there to hang out with Tito. So when we walk in, Tito walks in and he starts warming up the band. And when he sees me, he says, oh, Eddie, I didn't know you were going to be here tonight. If I'd have known that, I would have invited you to do your 2 numbers here tonight with Maria. I said, really, Tito? He said, yeah. I said, I'll be right back. I ran to my car, opened the trunk.
Got your costume?
Yeah. That's why I said, you got to be ready.
You gotta be ready
I grabbed
to
the
go.
outfit, and I walked up to him. I said, Tito, by coincidence, I happen to have the costume. He said, oh, really? He said, go get dressed. Same thing. 2 numbers. You do your first 2 numbers. And then all of a sudden, we started following him everywhere. And the first thing he would ask me, he says, you got your outfits in the trunk? You know, we would go to Long Island. You got your outfit, and then at one point I said, "No, Tito, I got them right here."
Yeah, you would just come with it.
This is how Maria and I started the experience of working with Tito. All right. So from club to club, we go everywhere, and he would present us until one day he says, "Eddie, give me your phone number." And then I get a phone call. I'm home with my mom, and my mom said, "Eddie, call el teléfono." I said, "Who's that?" She says, "Tito Puente." I said, "Mom, don't play like that." She says, no, in serio, it's Tito Puente. So I picked the phone, and I know Tito's voice. And he goes, I said, hello? I said, who's this? He said, Eddie, it's Tito. He says, I got a gig that I want to invite you and Maria. I think we're going to Philadelphia or Pennsylvania somewhere.
Yes.
Are you interested? I said, am I interested? Where, what time? Just tell me, we're there. And this is how we started little by little. Then one thing, mushroom into, next thing you know, we're going to work at the Apollo, we're going to work at the Madison Square Garden, we're going to work with him in Carnegie Hall, you know, and little by little, that's how it all started, familia. And
Now,
I thank you for your patience.
Wait. Before we finish, hello, good morning. Before we finish, I met Eddie October 1978. I went away to college for 2 months. Long story short, when I came back, December 12th, he told me about his vision, 1978. I said, let's give it a try. Then he had like 40 students. I was number 40. He told the whole class about his dream, and they thought, oh, que te está loco, que there's no market, and they walked out. I stood behind, and he looked at me, and I go, let's give this a try. December 12, 1978. January 1979, we were performing already with Tito Puente. What took me, maybe I would dare say a month, maybe a couple of weeks to learn the choreography because I was very quick. What took me 6 months was the timing and social dancing, because I was never experienced something to be free. I was always on stage performing. I started dancing in 1964, don't do the math. I started dancing, tap dance, jitterbug, and swing 1964 with a professional group. So I performed 15 years on stage. I never experienced how to dance socially. So Eddie took me at the studio, and you see the
videos.
the video on his page.
At June Libertas.
I was like this, what I do here, and to try to feel what he felt. He did social dancing 15 years, and I performed for 15. So when we connect together, it's like I was learning his world. And I thank Eddie to give me the opportunity to do this, because I help open doors for women to do styling, to teach beginner class. I teach men's styling, men's timing, ladies' timing. I do La Vuelta for beginners. Then I get them over to Eddie's class. But because of his dream, I've been dancing with him now 46 years, going on 47, December 12th. And I'm honored to be with you. And all his outfits, it's moi.
Yeah.
And
Come on.
she did not like social dancing. I would take her to the Corso. She would sit there and watch me dance with all the ladies, and I did that on purpose. I did that on purpose because she didn't want to social dance. She just wanted to perform on stage. After she saw me dancing all night with the ladies, I think she said, no.
No, aquí para.
Now,
She said,
No,
no. This
Now.
gotta stop. So
three-
then that's how I got her interested, and I started teaching her how to social dance.
Yeah.
And then when I would go to the clubs and the ladies would say, Eddie, can I dance? She said, no, go sit down. I'll tell you when he can dance with you. So
Maybe.
that worked though, because I got her to the point where she used to get like a little jealous to see me dancing with all the ladies all night, and she'd be sitting there watching. You dig it? So that psychology worked.
Now we gotta go.
To be continued.
Everybody's waiting.
gotta do this.
But you owe me.
Wait,
you owe me another one.
Maria, you gotta
Yes.
get your own episode.
Yes.
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 You gotta
Yes.
get your own episode.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank
you.
you. Thank you,
All right,
familia.
this will
Yeah.
be up soon.